feel the sense of being in the same room. But I would kindly request all of you to please mute your mics, and if you have any questions or anything that you would like, could you kindly edit into the chat box. We are just waiting for our interpretation to French. So if I can just say bonjour, bienvenue to CSW65. Just bear with us briefly. We are just waiting for the interpretation for French. We'll give you instructions on that. There's a small button where you can go and you can choose your language. But to start us off, we are going to invite you into a quick poll. So we just want you to, if I can ask my colleague Julie to share, we want you to click in the chat box. There's a click, it's a Mentimeter. We just want you to just take a quick poll. Julie, if you can go ahead and put the link in the chat box. So welcome everyone. Bienvenue, everyone. Bonjour. Okay, so if you look into the chat box, there's a link which says HTTPS Mentimeter. If you can go there. Julie, is there a password to Mentimeter? You just click on it and please answer the questions. There are 2 questions. So welcome everyone. If you can just see in your chat box, we are having just a quick poll for now. If you can go, I've just shared it in the chat box. If you can click on it and just take the poll. Julie, if I can ask you to share your screen so that we can see the question and the answers that are coming through. Welcome, everyone. Julie, go ahead. You can share your screen.
Hi, Memory. I am not able to share my screen. The host has disabled that. So until they enable it, then I'll be able to share my screen. Thank you. And we're moving to the next question.
I just made you co-host, Julie, so you should be able to share your screen with no issues.
Okay, thank you.
So once we take on the screen, Devin, if I can just kindly ask you to allow Dr. Carol Uguyi, she's our translator, and Benson Osongo, they are our interpreters for French. I'm just going to send you the names.
Yes, please, thank you.
We have moved to the next question. Could we kindly answer the next question? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Julie, if you can please just show us again. So we asked you 2 questions. Is this your first time attending NGO CSW Africa Caucus meeting? Julie, just share with us quickly the results, the one before this one. Okay, so it's just so great to know that we have 44% of the people in this room today who are attending African Women's Caucus for the very first time. So welcome. And the next question, we just wanted to get a real feel from you in terms of how are you, what has your experience been? And we are so excited. We are so excited that 35%, 33% have said it's exciting, it's engaging, 13% are still thinking about it, and 13% still say it's difficult to navigate, 5% have been busy, I'm sure during the 24-hour clock, and 2% all of the above. Thank you so much for sharing with us your views on that. So welcome again. If I can just allow me 2 minutes for us to, in order for us to be inclusive, I'm just going to ask whether our French sisters, our Francophone sisters are able to, the interpretation is now on. So if I can just get a sign, maybe Rai, do you just want to check? If I can just check with our Francophone sisters, there's an interpretation for French.
So you want me to check if they can hear the French translation, is that correct?
Yes, okay. Yes.
Alors, bonjour tout le monde. On voulait juste savoir si les francophones, si vous avez reçu l'interprétation, si vous pouvez accéder à l'interprétation en français. Si vous avez des difficultés...
nous t'écoutons là. Nous t'écoutons, mais on n'accède pas à ça. Donc, l'interprétation va se faire à partir de là où vous êtes?
Non, par exemple, quand vous parlez, vous savez, en bas, sur votre gauche, c'est écrit interprétation. Vous avez vu ça? Juste en bas, là où il y a les icônes, là où il y a participants, record, live stream et tout ça, réaction. Vous avez vu? En bas de votre écran, sur le Zoom.
Oui, il y en a pour...
OK, donc
il n'y a pas de problème.
Quand vous cliquez sur interprétation, vous cliquez sur French, il y a un truc qui va s'ouvrir et puis il y a le truc en français. Il faut juste appuyer sur ça et vous devez voir.
Non, c'est bon. Tout à l'heure, il n'y avait pas cette boîte à dialogue.
Ah, d'accord. Maintenant, vous pouvez accéder. OK, c'est bon. Bien. OK, c'est bien. Donc, si
oui, on peut accéder. Tout à l'heure, ce n'était pas là.
OK, ça va. Donc, si vous avez des difficultés pour accéder à la traduction en français, n'hésitez pas à écrire dans le chat box ici, comme ça on peut vous aider. Merci beaucoup. Memory, I think it's fine. They didn't see the interpretation box before, but I think now it's all fine. I told them if there's any issue, they just need to write down in the chat box, so we should be able to help them out.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you so much, Arai. So let me just go ahead and welcome everyone to the African Women's Caucus meeting. This is a caucus meeting that is organized by NGO CSW, New York, and for Africa, we have the NGO CSW Africa Steering Committee, which brings together and coordinates the voices of African women in participating in the CSW. So CSW65 is our first virtual Africa Women's Caucus. And the objective of this caucus really is to come together as African women and for us to really exchange ideas, to network, to learn, but also for us to strategize on how we can influence NGO CSW Africa, NGO CSW process. So let me just start by also just recognizing the members of the NGO CSW Africa Steering Committee for 2021. We have the co-chairs, which is Femnet, and then we also have Will Duff, West Africa, and we have Lois from Wildaf. We also have, starting this year, a young youth CSW co-chair as well, CSW Africa co-chair, Zone, and she is from Cameroon. She also works and mobilizes Central Africa region. Our other CSW Africa members include AMWA, Akina Mama wa Africa, and we have Chipo. We also work very closely with GMAC, Gender is My Agenda campaign, whose secretariat is FAS, based in Senegal. And we have Elisa. We have Esther Kimani from Zamara Foundation. She is based here in Kenya, but also working in East Africa as well. And then we have for Southern Africa, Women in Law in Southern Africa, we have Fadzai. And we also have the Southern Africa Gender Alliance, which is represented by Shamiso. We also have, as part of our North Africa sisters, we have Fatma from Egypt, and we also have Samia, who is from Tunisia as well. I don't think I have left, oh, Chantal, we have Chantal from, also connecting from Cameroon, but she is for Central Africa. So this is how NGO CSW Africa works. We have representatives from the 5 African regions.
Memory, I'm really sorry to interrupt you, but people said they can't get the French translation. Can you check that, please?
Okay. Ben, if I can just check with you, Ben, for our translation, our interpretation. Ben, if you can just come in.
Memory, it looks like he's not connected to his audio. Maybe if he just, you know, leaves and comes back, it might fix it.
Okay. I'm also looking for Joyce, Dr. Joyce. Carol, Dr. Carol Oyugi.
I'm Rizlan Ben Asher from Morocco. Please.
Okay. Carol, if you can please just come in. Carol, our interpreter, and Ben, can you please connect? And just, can we do a quick testing for our French interpretation? Ben and Carol, if you can hear me, please come in. I just need a signal from you. Are you in the room? Can I please ask my Femnet colleagues, Rachel, Julie, yes. Do you just want to quickly check with Rose?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Our interpreters are there.
Right away.
Okay. So this is the most important thing for us. As a diverse continent, we have to make sure that we are inclusive and that we are not leaving anyone behind because of region or because of language. Manisha, I also see your question in the chat where you'd like a list of all the entities and the NGOs. We will also share with you about NGO CSW Africa. You can also join, there's also a website. Thank you to everyone who is just also telling us where you are coming from. Please go ahead, tell us where you're coming from, which countries you're connecting from. So as we continue, I'm afraid we don't have much time. So I'll quickly go into our next item on the agenda is for us to just go through the key messages from the Africa Civil Society position. So prior to CSW, we had a consultation across the continent. We had over 600 people who registered to be part of the consultation. And during the actual consultation, where we were putting together the key messages in line with the CSW65 theme. So we put together these messages, which we also presented to the gender ministers and to the gender technical committee. So these are the key messages, and we'll have Chipo who will present, as well as Chantal. We also have the link. So we have both the English link as well as the French link. So you can go ahead and just see the links Rachel is sharing. So if I may just quickly ask Chipo, 5 minutes, if you can quickly just highlight what are the key messages coming from the Africa position. And then I'll ask Chantal, and if Chantal, you can also give us the key highlights, and also please, you can also go ahead and speak in French as well. So Chipo, for 5 minutes, if you can give us the key messages coming from the Africa civil society position, and then Chantal will follow.
Thank you so much, Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm going to present the key messages on behalf of CSOs. We recognize that...
if you can please share your video so that we can see you.
Hi, can you see me now?
Divan is just going to spotlight you. We can't see you, but you can go ahead while Divan spotlights you. And also to mention that Carol is now in, so we are sorting the French translation.
Okay, thank you, Memory. I'll just quickly go through the key messages. We recognize that leadership in Africa for women and girls in all their diversities is still lacking due to many barriers, such as restrictive laws, cultural diversities and practices, retrogressive and negative attitudes towards women's leadership, institutional barriers, as well as disproportionate access to quality education, healthcare, and resources. And we also recognize that the current electoral and political systems are designed to exclude women. Furthermore, women and girls continue to face barriers which affect their active and meaningful participation at stages of peace and reconciliation processes in the region. And their priorities are not given due attention. We recognize that achieving gender equality and women empowerment is a shared responsibility of different stakeholders. We therefore call on all member states, different development partners, state and non-actors to commit to increasing women's participation in all their diversities in leadership and decision-making positions. With the focus on implementing gender quotas to ensure women's equal participation in leadership through the full implementation of the Maputo Protocol and SDGA in their national and legal frameworks, as well as their constitutional quotas, prevent the proliferation of small arms. Governments, arms companies, and arms dealers must be held accountable for transferring arms in situations where they fuel conflict and grave breaches the Sustainable Development Goal Target 16.4, which calls for a significant reduction in illicit arms flow by 2030. Also enhance women's political participation and influence through stimulating women's economic empowerment and working conditions and decent work. Also strengthen national accountability on gender equality and women's empowerment. The other thing is to ensure that women and girls effectively participate in all decisions related to the governance and administration of land and natural resources at the local, national, and regional levels. recognize, reduce, and redistribute unpaid care work so that young and senior women can be released to have time to engage in politics, trade, and entrepreneurship, as well as provide inclusive social protection for caregivers to mitigate the effects of the burden of unpaid care work. Governments should also conduct regular gender audits in political parties, electoral management bodies, and government departments so that they monitor progress towards gender-responsive electoral laws that prevent women from becoming candidates in the elections. Lastly, safeguard women parliamentarians from all sexual assaults and threats against them, both online and offline. Thank you, Memory. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Shipo, for highlighting those key messages that are coming from the African women's civil society position. So I'll keep also asking our colleague Rachel to send the statement as well. We also, some of these key messages were picked by the government statement as well. So if I may ask Chantal, if you can come in and also zero in particularly on the theme, which is looking at ending violence against women. So Chantal will also speak in French, and you can go to the interpretation button. Go ahead, Chantal.
Merci, Memory. Je ne suis pas peut-être vue. Désolée de garder mon masque parce que je suis dans un environnement où je ne suis pas seule. J'avais notre programme à cette heure-ci. Donc, la position de plaidoyer de recommandation des femmes africaines pour cette 65e session de la Commission des Nations Unies sur le statut des femmes. C'est juste un résumé. Comme nous le savons, nous avons tenu notre réunion le 15 février et c'est de là où tout a commencé. Et nous allons directement au plaidoyer sur lequel nous avons appelé à l'action sur le thème. Donc, s'engager à accroître la participation des femmes dans toute leur diversité aux postes de direction et décisionnels. Mettre en œuvre les quotas.
Sorry, Chantal.
Yes?
I'm sorry, Chantal, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to give a heads up to Carol, the interpreter. Carol Yugi, you're muted. So you need to unmute yourself, and also Benson. If you can kindly unmute yourself so that even as you're doing the translation so that we can also hear. And then just a kind reminder for us, just make sure that you have selected interpretation for English or French. Thank you, and back to you, Chantal.
Sorry, Rachel, Samia, you have the subtitle when she speaks in French, the subtitle is mixed up. So this is just to draw your attention.
Okay, thank you, Samia.
D'accord, donc qu'est-ce que vous me conseillez d'aller doucement?
Non, vous pouvez continuer, c'était juste pour régler le problème de la traduction. Vous pouvez continuer.
Ah, ok, technique alors. Donc, je disais tantôt que je vais directement sur notre position à l'appel, à notre appel à l'action. Donc, nous reconnaissons que la réalisation de l'égalité de sexe et l'autonomisation des femmes est une responsabilité partagée par différentes parties prenantes. Nous appelons donc les États membres, les partenaires de développement, les acteurs étatiques et non étatiques à s'engager à accroître la participation des femmes dans toute leur diversité aux postes de direction décisionnelle. Donc, entre autres, nous avons ce problème de quota qui est toujours quelque chose d'incontournable sur lequel nous le demandons à travers la mise en œuvre complète, on dit bien complète, du protocole de Maputo, prévenir la prolifération des armes légères. Les gouvernements et les fabricants d'armes et les marchands d'armes doivent être tenus responsables du transfert d'armes. Donc, sur le côté de l'amélioration de la participation et l'influence politique des femmes, stimuler l'autonomisation économique et les conditions de travail des femmes, et le travail décent, renforcé par la responsabilité nationale en matière d'égalité. En matière d'égalité, oui, en matière d'égalité au niveau national entre les sexes et l'autonomisation des femmes. S'assurer que les femmes et les filles participent effectivement à toutes les décisions liées à la gouvernance et à l'administration du foncier et des ressources naturelles au niveau local, national et régional. Bien entendu, reconnaître et réduire la redistribution du travail de soins non rémunéré. Ça, c'est ce pour quoi on se bat depuis des années. Le commerce, l'entrepreneuriat, ainsi que garantir une protection sociale inclusive pour les soignants, ainsi d'atténuer les effets de la surcharge soins non rémunérés, surtout en cette période de Covid, par des mesures politiques concrètes, notamment par de larges investissements dans l'économie de soins. Une rémunération adéquate des personnes soignantes, dont la majorité sont des femmes, serait une étape importante pour amorcer la pompe des économies du monde entier. Donc, les gouvernements, on les appelle, devraient effectuer régulièrement les audits de genre dans les partis politiques. Et sur ce, avant le point sur la protection, après le point sur la protection des femmes parlementaires, nous avons pris des grandes lignes en ce qui concerne éliminer toutes les formes de violence à l'égard des femmes et des filles. Il y a 3 points, et c'est sur ça que Maurice a voulu qu'on s'attarde, renforcer leur réponse à toutes les formes de violence contre les femmes et les filles dans toute leur diversité, en mettant en action les mesures décrites dans la Convention sur l'élimination de toutes les formes de discrimination à l'égard des femmes et la Convention relative aux droits de l'enfant. Les gouvernements devraient adopter des lois pour rendre illégale la coercition sexuelle et la violence domestique et devaient fournir et offrir des espaces de soins pour les survivants des violences basées sur le genre, avec des services de santé sûrs, abordants, accessibles et adaptés aux jeunes, notamment les services d'avortement médicalisés. Et enfin, sur la question des violences, éliminer les pratiques patriarcales et néfastes telles que le mariage forcé et forcé des enfants, le repassage des seins, la thérapie, la conversion et la mutilation génitale féminine, l'excision, collaborer avec les leaders confessionnels, religieux, culturels pour lutter contre les normes et pratiques sociales. Et je vous remercie.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup, Chantal. Thank you so much for highlighting some of the key issues that are coming out from the Africa Civil Society Statement. And also thank you to all our sisters who are also putting, I note Helen says, can we please consider the priority of protection of women and children in places of non-state violence, for example, northern Mozambique. This is also a place where human trafficking and violence against women occurs. So I think the context of Africa is peculiar. Issues of migrant workers, issues of internally displaced women and girls and children are very much important. So the theme for this year should also include these public spaces and allowing the different diversities of African women and children to be protected, and also for women to be considered in taking leadership and championing these issues. We will share again the link, both the English version and the French version of the Africa Civil Society Statement, and would love to urge you to really please use this statement. Tell us also if there are any other areas that you think should be in the statement that should be highlighted. So I'll go on. If you have any questions that you would like to ask, please, you can put your questions in the chat box, and the NGO CSW members will be there to respond and also to provide more information. But thank you so much. We are so much encouraged with a lot of you who are attending the African Women's Caucus for the first time. And just to reiterate, the objective of the caucus is for us to come together as women and girls from the continent to strategize on how we can influence the CSW process, but also it's a time for us to share, to meet with each other. If we were in New York, we'll be exchanging contacts, but to also share the different activities that we are engaged in the different spaces of CSW. So I'll go ahead and to the next session. So the next session was for us to really strategize in terms of what are some of the key tactics that we can use as women from the continent in terms of monitoring and influencing CSW65 negotiations, and particularly in the virtual space. And I'm very much pleased that we also have Devon, who is from the Secretariat of NGO CSW Africa, who can also answer some of the questions you might have in terms of engaging in the virtual space. So let me start by saying, I'll just share 3 main points. Let me just share my screen. So I'll share 3 main points. I don't think I have much to share, but the 3 main points in terms of how we can tactfully influence the space. So the first one is that CSW65 is really an opportunity for us to hear what our leaders are saying. So usually when our leaders come into these spaces, they are trying to be politically correct. So it's an opportunity for us to really capture what are they committing to in terms of the theme on women in public life, equal participation in decision-making, and on ending violence to achieve gender equality. So it's important for us to capture, and the good thing about technology and the digital space is we can tweet them. So we can tweet them, and our hashtag is hashtag CSW65 Africa. But also, if I can ask Rachel to put in our hashtag, it's important for us to tweet, or if it's not tweeting, sharing on Facebook, also hearing what they are saying so that we can follow up soon after CSW for accountability. So it's also important for us, under the same point, for us to find out what our leaders and our ministers and our delegations who are not saying anything. So even if they are silent, I think over the years we've been saying, what do people go to CSW to do? So we should be monitoring, number one, what our delegations saying, what our delegations not saying, and what are they opposing to. There is the ministerial, Africa ministerial statement, which will also be shared, the link in the chat. Are they also sticking to some of the agreed messages that they agreed to in Addis when they met? Or are they also starting to oppose some of that some of the Africa positions now that they are in the CSW space? So number one, is a great opportunity for us to be listening to what our leaders are saying. Now, the second thing is that we should not lose the pulse of CSW. CSW is bringing together the different member states for them to negotiate and discuss and agree on the outcome document. So the 0 draft of the outcome document was already shared, and we had an opportunity to input into the 0 draft. It's also available on the CSW website. So the zero draft is a very important document, which the missions that are based in New York, together with the delegations, and that are based in the countries negotiate on the key outcomes. So from what we know is this document, if I'm not mistaken, is almost 30% already being negotiated. So the negotiations are going on, and what they are negotiating on is on the language, so that when the outcome document comes, is it aligned to the ideals of Beijing? Is it aligned to the ideals of CEDAW, of the progressive instruments, and also the messages that the different regions have come with? So it's important for us not to lose the heart of CSW. It's that document that we should be able to hear what are they agreeing to in that document, because this is the document that will hold our respective governments and our ministers in their countries accountable. So in terms of tracking and monitoring the outcome documents, we want to know whether you know your delegations from your respective countries. So as the African Women's Caucus, the reason why we want to meet is, as civil society, we want to find out if we can influence what is being discussed, because during the discussions, different countries have got different positions, and it's the bureau which is set up, which is the one which has influence in terms of the language that is then agreed upon. So please also tell us in the chat box whether you are in touch with your delegations. This year for CSW, they are only allowing 3 people to be part of the negotiations. So what this means is that only the government delegations will be given the access to the link. So we are not able to have access to that discussions. And there's already a campaign which is going on, which is saying unmute CSW65. So what are the tactics that we can use? If you know a member of the government delegation, please try and find out if you can also get into the room and also have access to the link, particularly during the evening time. We know that with the advantage of all these things is that maybe during the evening, when it's evening in our time here in Africa, negotiations will still be going on because they are using the New York calendar. So if you have access, please let's get close to our government delegations and see if they can also allow us to be in the room and to monitor. So what we want to come up with as NGO CSW Africa Caucus is also to find out if you are interested in being a small little group where we can have a WhatsApp group just to share what are the things that are being discussed, what are the things that we should look out for. So that's the number 2 in terms of the negotiations. So if you also have any information or you're part of the delegation, please let us know. So currently, the information that we are getting as civil society is mostly coming from the EU delegation, because some of the EU civil society are part of their delegation. So it's important that we are also doing our advocacy within and also outside. So we also need to get information from the Africa delegations as well. I think the last thing that I just thought I would share is plenary sessions are public. So whether you have registered or not, for you to get into a particular plenary session, you should first register. And most of them are filling very quickly, but we know for next week, some are still open. So it's important for you to register early, for you to be, we know most of you registered for Indigo, for the official parallel sessions, which are outside the NGO sessions that are going on. So it's also important for you to be part. If you want to be inside the web link, most of them will be out there on web TV. But if you want to be inside where you have now access to be able to ask questions during those sessions, it's important for you to pre-register. So I just thought those would be just the 3 quick tactics to share with you from the Africa delegation. Let us not lose pulse on what CSW, the heart of CSW, is all about. So unfortunately, we just have an hour, so we have to quickly move on to our next session, where we are launching a policy brief on women's leadership and COVID in Africa. And let me right away invite our next presenter, who will be Rainatu, and Rainatu is from Guinea and from Make Every Woman Count. So Rainatu, if you can go ahead.
Thank you so much, Memory. I just wanted to say I will be presenting with my colleague Giovanna, who will be here. Can we can we share a screen after? Once, Giovanna, can you share your screen, please?
I don't think I have access to share my screen.
Okay. Can you share? You don't? Okay. Rachel, could you let, yeah.
Yes, Rai, we actually made you co-host.
Okay.
Yes, you're
okay. Could you put Giovanna's co-host, because she has got the slide? Sorry.
Yes, she's co-host now. She should be able to
great.
share.
Okay, Giovanna, can you share the screen, the first page? Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for having us. And it's lovely to see all our sisters. I know this year is quite different, where we can't see each other, but I feel like we still could be able to, exchange as usual. And hopefully next year we'll be able to see each other and hug each other. So it's lovely to be here. And we, just to go quickly, I'm gonna have a quick introduction about the policy briefing, and my colleague Giovanna will take over to give you a kind of an idea about the findings that we're able to come out with this policy briefing. As you all know, since the first coronavirus disease happened last year, every country in the continent has recorded cases, and while the virus itself does not discriminate based on gender, the indirect safety, health, and economic consequences of the pandemic have affected women disproportionately across the continent. And women political participation, which is the theme of the decade of the CSW, is crucial in advancing gender equality and foster more equal and caring society overall, and focus on area of healthcare, but also well-being of women, children, and also the society as a whole. So we wanted to come out to see, because so many countries put, adopted policies on COVID, and we wanted to come out to find out whether having more women in decision-making positions have somehow impacted those, policies. So the objective of this policy briefing is to provide concrete evidence that women political participation as a member of parliament, for instance, is associated with a higher number of gender-sensitive COVID policies, and by extension with greater material benefiting women as a citizen. So, and our evidence that women presence is often associated with policies, this we all could see that across the continent, the more women you have, the more policies. And my colleague Giovanna is going to give you a presentation where she's going to show the findings of this policy briefing with you. Giovanna, are you ready?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
So, like Rai just mentioned, COVID-19 has had an incredible impact on women's lives across the world, and especially in Africa. So because of this disproportionate effect, what we have been seeing is that gender-sensitive policy measures are very important in order to tackle this, this disproportionate impact. So the purpose of this policy brief was to analyze if there is in fact a correlation between gender-sensitive policy measures and the number of women in parliaments. So we looked at the number of gender-sensitive measures using the Global Gender Response Tracker and the Interparliamentary Union data sets. And what we were able to identify, like you can see in this graph, is that the number of gender-sensitive measures by country is higher in countries where there is a higher number of women MPs. So for instance, The first three countries in this graph, Egypt, South Africa, and Uganda, are the three top countries with the highest number of gender-sensitive measures. And these are also countries with very high number of women MPs. What is interesting about our analysis is that we were able to identify that it's not necessarily the percentage of women in parliament that affects the number of gender-sensitive measures, but rather the raw data, the raw number of women. So what this means is that every woman that participates and engages in parliament has a really significant impact on gender-sensitive measures. So what our model concludes is that if you have one woman MP, they are associated with an increase in 1.7 times a greater amount of gender-sensitive policies than their male counterpart. So if you think about a fictitious parliament where you would only have one gender being represented, for example, you would have to need 70 women MPs to produce a single gender-sensitive COVID policy. On the contrary, you would need 117 men MPs to produce the same gender-sensitive COVID policy. So given this analysis, what we were able to conclude is that there is a relationship with the amount of women MPs in parliament. So when you have more women in parliament, you will have a higher number of gender-sensitive measures. And with this in mind, we came up with 5 policy recommendations. So this policy recommendations, the idea here would be to influence government and civil society organizations to include and to facilitate a higher number of women MPs. So number 1 is government should strive to include gender sensitive in COVID-19 response measures. So given that women are disproportionately being affected by COVID-19, we need to include these measures when responding to the pandemic. Number 2 is government should strive to increase the number of women legislators through quotas and capacity building. So we need an institutional environment that facilitates these women being included in parliament. Number 3 is political parties and government legislatures should create a political culture that recognizes women's leadership and policymaking abilities. So it's not enough just to have an institutional environment if you don't have social and cultural norms that go hand in hand together with this institutional environment. So number 4 is that government should have earmarked women politicians. So for example, you need to have a funding or reducing registration fees for women who run for office. And number 5 is that political parties, civil society organizations, and government should provide training, mentoring, and coaching to women seeking elected offices. So our purpose here with this policy brief is that since we were able to showcase that there is in fact a relationship between the amount of women MPs and the number of gender sensitive policies, is that with this, we are able to incentivize governments and civil society organizations to continue pushing for the inclusion of women in parliament. And hopefully with that, we're able to translate that into having more gender sensitive measures that not only will be responding to COVID-19, but just across the board as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Giovanna. Thank you. So I just wanted to know that we have put the link to the policy briefing on the chat. So please have a look. And if you have any question, we're going to put our contact there as well. Please get in touch, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have. But thank you so much. And Memory, back to you. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much, Rai, and thank you, Giovanni, for that really, really insightful information. And thank you. I take note that you've also shared with us the link that's already in our chat, just to say, can we, just go back and check them more and continue to use it because data, we say with numbers don't lie. So the data is already speaking. And I think it's an opportunity for us to see how we can leverage that and connect that with our continued advocacy and influencing in this CSW65, whose team is around women's leadership, particularly around their public life. Allow me just to tilt a little bit and request for like 10 minutes. We're just winding up. I know we're supposed to be ending right now, but I'm just requesting for 10 minutes, just so that in case there's anyone who has a question or a comment, I've been seeing a lot of engagement and conversations happening on the chat. Please continue also using the chat. And also encouraging the NGO CSW Africa members to also be responding to the chat. But allow me to find out if there's anyone who would want to make a comment, a contribution, particularly in terms of how they're already positioning themselves in terms of influencing in this virtual CSW65 with all its dynamics. So maybe I can just take maybe 2 or 3 hands if I see your hands raised up. But then I would also like to request, we are about 136 of us, 137 on us on this call. We would want to continue sharing with you more information, not just about the NGO CSW Africa, but also around the other activities that are happening in this CSW65. So requesting if we can kind of like just type in your name and your email on the chat box, just your name, your email and country. I think name, email, country. And then we'll be able to collect that information and be able to stay in touch with all of us. I see your hand, Samia. You have the space. You have the Zoom space now that we don't have a floor. You have the Zoom space, Samia.
Thank you so much. To start with, I would like to say that to thank you and to say how much you have been an inspiration to us. This group, I mean, the African CSO group. After I worked with you in the steering committee, and because I belong to a network in the Arab region, this really prompted us to prepare, to hurry up, and Fatma is here, she's listening probably to me, to prepare a position paper for the Arab region. We copied you, and this is good, you know. Well, I already wrote said my comment in the chat. We have seen that in the preparatory commission of with the member states, that there was some attempts to maybe to regress and to go back on the commitments already and the engagement. So what I would like to say is that we have to stand in solidarity, not to let this happen. We should not let any regression on the rights of women happen, and we should not also allow any change in the concepts or in the language used to be changed. Thank you so much.
Great. Very good point there. And I think it's also calling on us to remain vigilant as advocates, yes, as feminists in this space, to remain vigilant. And then also I like what you propose in terms of the power of solidarity and you know, staying connected with each other and taking advantage of the networks and the delegations we're already in touch with. I see your hand, Adebowale Meroi. If you can just take a minute, because then I will also be wrapping up this session. Adebowale, if you can kindly come in now. Are you muted?
I'm more like a suggestion. No, I am not muted. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you now. Go on. A minute, kindly.
Yeah, I think this regional caucus can actually go a step further by advocating for a kind of a policy reform with maybe the help of the UN concerning major African countries on inclusion of women in political and leadership position. I see there is still a very high glass ceiling on the women leadership position in terms of even in the political parties. In many places, in many sectors, a woman is seen as most times treated as a second fiddle. And I think this is really a major challenge. And yeah, I felt if the UN can make a kind of policy reform, I think this will go a long way to break this glass ceiling and open room for a lot of women, to participate in leadership position and showcase our very wonderful various potentials that will help the gender to have the cause. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Adebowale. Really taking note of that. And then also just requesting that we just keep bouncing back to the position statement. We have shared the links for the position statement, both in English and French, and encouraging us just to keep cross-checking. And in case of anything, we are welcome. We're welcome to hear more in case there's anything that is missing. We've also taken note of the comments that have been already put in the chat in terms of what else we need to capture and what else we need to include in the statement. Allow me, with your permission, because I still have 5 minutes that I requested for, to then invite just Zone. Zone, if you can kindly come in and just do a wrap up even as we end our conversation this hour. Zone, are you there? Zonziwo, are you muted? And I know, oh, good. Sorry, you're slightly faint.
I'm just going to, given the fact that we are short of time, I hope everybody can hear me. I'm just going to say two things. One, that we should not relent our effort and understand that African women.
Rachel, we can't hear you well. Jonesy, you're really far. We can't hear you well.
Zone, we can't hear you well. Maybe you need to move a little bit closer to your microphone. Zonziwo? Okay, I think as you try to connect back, I know, Lois, you also wanted just to give some remarks, even as we're winding up. Lois from WILDAF. Looks like the technology is not very favorable on your end. Can you hear me, Lois or Zone? Okay. It looks like the technology is not favoring them right now, and it's trying to mute them, and we'll continue to say unmute us even in this technology, even as we are continuing with advocacy for unmute CSW65. Allow me then just to say, to wrap it up and really appreciate each one of us.
Rachel, I'm sorry. Considering she left the room, I have brought her in, so maybe she will be able to talk.
Hello.
Hi, Lois. Hi, Lois. Yes.
At a point, I had to join on the YouTube platform to help me to be able to connect well. The link wasn't doing well over here. Okay, so I want to use this.
Hello, please. This is Zonziwo. I'm using Nancy's phone because of the bad network.
Okay, go on, Zone. 1 minute, and then
Hello,
Lois, 1 minute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Zone. 1 minute, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm using Nancy's phone because of the partner. Okay, thank you. Just quickly, I just wanted to say in 2018, African women had won the world around, the use of accessible technology and making technology affordable. Here we are 2021, and we are living the reality, which is one of, I mean, like what is just happening to me is just one of the issues around making technology accessible and affordable for all. Two, the last thing I want to say is that let's take advantage of this moment and make sure that we make our presence heavily felt. There is the public conversation going on, which is also another avenue for us to influence and shape the Generation Equality Forum. And the second part also is around the Mexico Forum that is coming on, which deadline is around the 19th. I will encourage that we also register for that. And we all know about the Paris Forum, which will be coming up 30th of June and to the 2nd of July. Registration will be open shortly. We'll make sure we share the link. That also is another opportunity. Let's not leave any opportunity go by without claiming that space and making sure that we influence and shape the conversations that are going on. Because what we are doing is for us, is for our future, is for the future of our children and great-grandchildren. Let's keep the momentum. And once again, thanks, and I'm happy with the presence of everyone in this space here today. Let's keep the good work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Zonne. Great, great. So excited that we are also beating the technology when it's trying to unmute us. Great, great, Zonne, that you're able to connect with us. And thank you for reminding us about the Generation Equality Forum that is upcoming later this month in the Paris session. Again, for all of us who have shared your emails on your chat box, we will be sharing with you more information in terms of registration and other processes that you can still continue to connect. And I think that's very important, how we stay connected from CSW to the Generation Equality Forum to all the other advocacy spaces that we can continue to influence. Allow me to invite you, Lois. Lois, if you can come in. Are you there, Lois? Give me a signal.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. So I want to thank the African community and the women's movement for joining this very important meeting and for us to be able to share our position concerning women political participation from an African perspective. This issue has been an ongoing issue, and I think that this is the time we should be able to press harder than to, relax and then allow, not get the expected parity that we hope to envisage. I will also want to add my voice to the upcoming Generation Equality Forum, and then to encourage all of us to be able to follow any of the action coalitions and be part of it so that we can be able to advance the issues of women's rights in the next decade. I want to thank you all, and I hope to see us all next week for the next session of the Africa Caucus meeting. Thank you.
Great, great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Lois. And, just also to weigh in and say thank you very much to all of us for connecting. And just to quickly remind us that we also have the African Women Caucus next week on the 23rd, and we will be sharing with you the details and how to connect with the African Women Caucus. But if you can kindly just diarize it, put it in your calendar next week on the 23rd, we will be coming again just to reflect and to be able to see how we've been able to influence. I remember Memory started us off by asking us, how well are we connected? How well are we in touch with the delegations, the 3 in each of our countries who are making negotiations, who are making decisions on our behalf? How are we staying connected, and how are we being able to influence, even using the recommendations that we have put together as African women, and also any other that we may have? So allow me to take it. I see your Memory. Did you want to come in? Because then I just wanted to give a wrap by saying thank you. Requesting if you are able then just to put on your video shortly. We can wave. Remember, we started by saying this is a space for us to connect, to network, to learn, but then also just being able to be the technology and say, at least we can see each other's faces. A kind reminder, please type in your name, your email and country, and we will stay connected with you on behalf of the NGO CSW Africa. Thank you, thank you. I see us waving, just saying we're wrapping up now. Memory, did you want to come in? I see your video on.
No, I actually wanted us to just have a quick picture connecting from wherever we are. And just to remind people that in our next NGO CSW Africa Women's Caucus, we want to put together a letter that we want to send to Pumuzile, UN Women She's from Africa, and this will be her last year. So we also want at least to just think through what are the key issues that we want from CSW Africa. So next week, when we meet, we want to put together what are our key asks for CSW for the ways of working and for whatever we would have come up with. So have that in mind, and thank you so much for everyone. So we just do quick pictures. Rachel, over to you.
Great, thank you. Yes, just, I don't know, Devon, are you able to take screenshots for the images as people turn on their cameras?
Sure.
Do we have our cameras turned on? As we say, thank you. Yes, keep turning them on.
All right, I'm taking screenshots of all your beautiful faces.
The smiling ones and the non-smiling ones, the ones that are on, the ones that are off, taking all of them. And thank you so much, sisters. Really great to connect, and looking forward to connecting again next week. Keep the conversation on the Twitter. We're using the hashtag CSW65 Africa and hashtag CSW65. Keep tagging us. For everyone who's shared their email, we'll be sharing with you more details about how to connect with NGO CSW Africa, how to become a member. I take note of some questions that we were asked. So we'll be sharing more information. Thank you.
Bye everyone. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Feel free to unmute and just say kwaheri. Bye. Au revoir.
Bye. 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 Kwaheri.
I'm talking because I'm French. I'm from Nigeria. Just one word. Just one word.
A long way.
French, and I will be pleased to receive you. Not here. I said I will be pleased to receive you in June in Paris, since I'm French.
Okay. Thank you.
So that will be with a very great pleasure for the forum.
Thank you, Mel.
I'm from the International Alliance of Women. Okay.
Thank you. We are truly African hosts. We will not lock you out. We just want you to keep living, as you say bye, as you say au revoir. I'm even tempted with the music.
But you are very, very nice, and it was a very good session, you know. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Monique. Thank you. Great connecting, Monique.
Okay.
Thank you, and goodbye, everybody.
Hi, Dr. Binka. You're looking lovely.
Love you all, ladies.
Bye.
Marie.
Right.
What are you waiting there, Rachel?
I'm just saying bye, Chantal. You want me to switch it off now?
Thank you.
What are you doing there again? The meeting is over.
Yes, the meeting is over, Chantal. It was only 1 hour. 1 hour just goes zoom. But let's hope next
Not enough.
week.
At least we are at home, so we can do it. In New York, we are rushing upside down.
That's true.
This is also a good thing. Yeah.
That's true.
Okay, I'm going.
Bye.
Hi, Chantal. How are you?